One thing I want to show that I really want to highlight with this is how lightweight this bike is. So watch this. I can drop it all the way like this and lift it up. You can't, if you try to do, watch this. If you try to do this with a T7, good luck. Good luck to you. This thing is incredibly lightweight for a twin cylinder adventure bike.
Hello everyone and welcome to Big Rock Moto. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I recently had the chance to ride the new Kove 800X Pro in the deserts of Southern California. So let me quickly give you the lowdown on the Kove 800X Pro. So first of all, the Kove 800X in the USA anyway comes in two different versions. You can get the Pro version, which comes in at $9,999, and this is the bike that I'm testing in this video. And then you can upgrade to the Rally version. Now the Rally version has a high front fender, it has different suspension with longer travel, and a few additional features. It's more off-road performance oriented, and that model will set you back $11,999. All right, so the Kove 800X Pro is a Chinese-made 800cc middleweight adventure motorcycle that comes in considerably lighter than all of its main competitors. It makes around 95 horsepower, has a 240mm fully adjustable KYB suspension front and back. It carries 5 gallons or 19 liters of fuel. It has a 34.5 inch or 876mm seat height. It has a tubeless spoked wheel set, 21 inch in the front, 18 inch in the back. Comes with a factory steering damper, switchable ABS, switchable traction control, but sadly it does not come with cruise control. Now, we need to talk about the weight on the Kove 800X. There's a lot been made, and that's kind of been the whole story on the internet about this bike, is it is so lightweight. And initially, Kove, and I think they still claim that this bike weighs in around 400 pounds wet, fully fueled up, ready to ride, or about 182 kilograms. And you're going to hear me quote that weight in the ride segment of this video because I filmed that like a month ago. Now, however, my colleagues over at MCN, which is an extremely well-respected publication, they weighed this bike. They had this bike as a test bike. They weighed it on their scales and got 432 pounds or 196 kilograms. Now, that is a huge discrepancy between what Kove is saying the curb weight is and what it actually weighs in at. Now, this is assuming that we trust the MCN scales, that they're calibrated, and as someone who has attempted to weigh motorcycles myself with scales, it can be a little bit tricky, but MCN knows what they're doing, and I'm gonna say that I trust that weight. So you're gonna hear me quote the lighter weight when I do the riding segment, around 400 pounds, but just know that MCN has weighed this in at considerably more, which is somewhat disappointing, but I will point out that still, even if that 432 pound or 196 kilo figure is correct, that still makes it 20 to 30 pounds or 10 to 15 kilos or so lighter than its closest real competitor, like the Tenere 700 or the Aprilia Tuareg 660. So still lighter, but not as much lighter as we had hoped. Now I will tell you, when you're riding the bike, lifting it up, when you drop it, taking it in the deep sand in the desert, it does feel extremely lightweight. And I was fully convinced after riding it that it was indeed 50 pounds or like 21 or so kilos lighter than a T7 or a Tuareg, although maybe it turns out that's not the case. So I just wanted to put that out there. All right, so now let me transport you out to the deserts in Southern California. We're gonna take a ride on the highway and off-road with this bike, talk about how it rides, how it feels. Then we'll come back here to the studio. I'll go through some other details, give you the pros and cons, and share some final thoughts.
All right, first ride on the Kove 800. So this is such another unique and interesting and segment disrupting motorcycle from Kove. I mean, it's using this 790cc engine that was, I think, originally developed by KTM. Woo! So as you can see, it's the bike is not slow. It's got a quick shifter. All right, calm down now, Ian. Yeah, so riding the Kove 800 on the road, the engine, you know, when you start the bike up, you do get that rattly kind of rocks in a tin can sound that all these 790 and 890 engines kind of have, which is unfortunate. But when you're riding it, you don't hear that, and it actually has a pretty nice little exhaust note to it. Yeah, the bike is pretty fast. It seems to handle pretty well. It feels very light. You know, you jump on this and it does not feel like a KTM 890 or a T7 or a Tuareg. It has a really lightweight, really sporty, nimble feel to it when you first take it off the kickstand. I don't know why, but it seems like the quick shifter doesn't work in the down direction, just the up direction. So I don't know if I'm doing something wrong, but so cruising down the highway on the Kove at 70, there's really, I feel very little vibration. The wind protection is just, it's okay. It's not great. I'm not getting too much buffeting on my Aprilia XT5 helmet, but it's loud. There's a lot of wind noise, so it's not great wind protection, but it's something. It's okay. I like how Kove is using these portrait orientation dashboards. I feel that that's a really nice way to display the information instead of the horizontal format, so I like that. It's going to make if you want to put your GPS up here, that's going to be a bit more challenging, so you're probably going to put like a GPS down here, which is fine, but some people might not like that. The power feels like, if you've ridden a KTM 790 or a CF Moto 790 or any of those bikes with those engines, it feels, you know, it feels about like that. Man, you can really get going fast on this bike. I'm really worried. I don't want to get pulled over. But I don't mind flying into these corners at 80 miles an hour. That's fine. The brakes don't feel that good, just being honest. The brakes feel kind of mushy. This seems like it'll be a pretty good bike if you have to cover a lot of highway miles. Honestly, this has less wind noise than a KTM 890 or a Norton 901. And the vibration seems very well under control. Yeah, the brakes have the power. You just really have to get into the lever. All right, let's take a little walk around the Kove, keeping in mind this is a very off-the-cuff kind of review. I'll put some of the relevant statistics and things in the text over the video or down below here for the things I don't know. What I know is this bike is around 400 pounds or maybe under that, depending on kind of what configuration you get or what spec you look at. I think that's the main thing with this, is you're getting a twin cylinder, you know, 90 to 100 horsepower adventure motorcycle that weighs, you know, 50 to 70 pounds less than a Tenere 700, a Tuareg 660, a KTM 790 or 890 or anything. So it undercuts all the others in terms of weight dramatically. And I'm not totally sure how they've done that, because like it's got a luggage rack, it's got passenger pegs, it's got a compliant, you know, street compliant exhaust. It's got these little crash bars on it that come with it. This bike has a few extra parts, like handguards that are not factory, Black Dog skid plate that is not factory. It's wearing the Pirelli Scorpion STR tires. I'm not sure what tires it's going to come with if you buy one. Like you can see, they've got little tie-down rings. So the style of the bike, it reminds me of an upscale 450 Kove. So it's got that kind of cool dual LED headlight front end. You've got all LED signals. So let me show you the lighting on this thing. So you've got LED front signals, LED headlights. In the back, you've got LED signals as well as an LED tail and brake light. We've kind of talked about the dash, pretty big. I like the orientation. You can configure things there. It's got a USB port. The windshield, which works adequately. It's pretty decent, I think, for what it is. This has some different mirrors. These are not the mirrors that you're going to get if you buy one. It's a compact, lightweight machine. Now, let me put on my gloves. Well, let's look at the controls. So you've got some controls here for the computer to do your ABS, traction control, ride modes. You've got your lights controls, hazard lights, simple, pretty simple controls. You've got adjustable suspension. I don't know who makes the suspension on this, but we'll try to research that and put that in the description. But it is fully adjustable, and it has pretty good travel to it. I'll also put the travel here in the description or in the text. Now, this bike comes in different versions. I believe there's like an up-spec, like rally type version that has like more suspension travel and stuff like that. And then there's more of a normal spec. I believe this is the more normal spec, but I'll clarify that here in the video for you. One thing I want to show that I really want to highlight with this is how lightweight this bike is. So watch this. I can drop it all the way like this and lift it up. You can't, if you try to do, watch this. If you try to do this with a T7, good luck. Good luck to you. This thing is incredibly lightweight for a twin-cylinder adventure bike with this much power. I mean, to give you reference, it's lighter than a Himalayan 450. It's lighter than a KLR. It's lighter than a CF Moto 450. And it's an 800, right? This is an 800 with almost 100 horsepower. So they didn't tell me not to do the drop test. So let's go ahead and just do that real quick. Let's go ahead and lift it up. Really easy grab points here to lift. Very lightweight, easy bike to lift. Try doing that with other big adventure bikes. There's just no way. I just can't tell you how nice it is to have such a lightweight bike. All right, let's give it the beans to the Kove 800 off-road here. It's sandy, it's the desert, I've got cactus. These tires are not very good, but let's send it anyway. Traction control is off, ABS to the back tire is off. You! Oh my gosh, you could get going so fast on this thing. This is like a 95 horsepower dirt monster. Hitting the sand here, this sand is pretty serious. Keep some speed up. Even with these Pirelli tires, it's still doable, but man, it'll give you a workout. Woo! Bike's moving around all over on me. But, oh man, it's soft. But I have the confidence to do this. The bike is so lightweight and so responsive. You really do notice the lesser weight versus all the competitors. You really do. Because when you remove the weight on a bike or a car or anything, you just make, oh man, so hard to control with these tires. You just make everything better when you get weight off the bike. Let's hit some ruts here, test the suspension. Well, the suspension feels pretty good, but it is early. Don't want to dust this guy on his bicycle too bad. It just really wants to go and light up that rear tire. Oh! You know how it feels to me is like if you took a Tenere 700, added about 20 horsepower, removed 50 pounds of weight, and gave it better suspension. That's how this feels. Yeah, suspension feels a little soft, but pretty legit. Like, seems pretty good. Whoa, sideways. Whoa! Man, the bike pivots really naturally, and you don't feel like it's gonna like totally go out too much on you, because again, it's so light and easy to control. You can slide the bike around on the brakes. Just gives me a lot of confidence. There's something about 95 horsepower in the dirt that's just fun. So I know people are kind of thinking, you know, and I'm thinking too, is this finally the unicorn? A powerful twin-cylinder adventure bike with good suspension, very light. You know, that 400-pound mark is such a hard mark to get under for the manufacturers. It's got the features, you know, it doesn't have cruise control, which is kind of a bummer, but it's got, you know, traction control, ABS settings, that's good. Pretty good dashboard. The brakes are not the best. The suspension, I need more time to test, but seems pretty good from first impression, and you have a lot of adjustments. Is it the unicorn? I mean, honestly, I don't know yet, but I'll tell you this. This is very unique. There's nothing else like this on the market right now. Coming in at this price point, with this weight, with this kind of power, man, this is insane. I mean, there's nothing else. The closest thing to this really is, I mean, there isn't anything, because the Tenere 700 has like 20 or 30 less horsepower and weighs 50 to 70 pounds more. You know, this is 70 or 80 pounds lighter than a KTM 890 Adventure. So this is really compelling if you look at it that way. And just riding off-road from the limited time that I have, oh my gosh, it feels super lightweight. Now, are there downsides? I'm sure there are plenty of downsides. There's always a list of pros and cons to every motorcycle, and that's what I try to show in my reviews. But on these first ride videos, it's so hard to really figure all that out because it's just a first ride. So the throttle, one thing I've heard about these is that the throttle's kind of jumpy and off and on and off. And I do notice some of that, but it's not terrible, and I don't think it would really be a major thing. But yeah, there is a little bit, like, it's that, oh, this is so sandy. It's that on-off smoothness. There's like a little bit of a jumpy throttle right off and on, but I don't think a lot of people would even notice it. I notice it because I test bikes for a living, but it's really not bad. Oh man, this is so sandy and washed out. Should not be going this fast with these tires. Whoa! Oh. Ha ha ha! Woo! I like how we can leave, oops, stalled the bike. I like how we can leave the front ABS on and turn the back off. I really do like that.
All right, so forgive me for checking the notes on my phone, but I want to give you a summary of what I think the pros and cons are from riding the Kove 800X Pro. Keeping in mind this was more of a first ride. I only had it for like an hour, and it's really hard to do any kind of comprehensive review in that amount of time. But here's what I picked up on. So for me, the pros, value for money, I think is really, really good. If you look at the power, the suspension, the chassis performance, the features, the weight, everything you're getting for that $10,000 price point, I think that's really, really phenomenal. And I guess that's what we expect when we have labor and things like that happening in China. Another pro for me is it has quite a bit of features to it. So the steering damper is a really nice touch you don't get on a lot of motorcycles. The TFT dash, the switchable traction control, very, very good. Also, I would point out another pro for me is the suspension. I thought the suspension felt really quite good for a stock adventure motorcycle and ahead of a lot of its competitors. The weight, we've talked about that plenty already. It's heavier than Kove is claiming, I think, but I will tell you for sure, it feels like it has a very low center of gravity. It's easy to lift up, like dramatically easier than something like a Tenere 700 or even a Tuareg 660. It does have a lightweight, low center of gravity feel, which is very, very nice. Power to weight ratio is very, very good. Like, think about this. Okay, so the CF Moto 450 that everybody's raving about right now, which isn't even to the United States yet, and I want to point that out. Everyone keeps asking me for that review. It's not even in this country yet. For whatever reason, certifications or something. It's not here yet. We're hoping January, February. That CF Moto 450 weighs the same as this Kove does, around 430, 435 pounds or 196 kilos, but has 47 horsepower because it's A2 restricted and it's that small engine. This bike has double the horsepower, but weighs the same. So the power to weight ratio is twice as good. So that shows you why this bike is so much fun to ride. Some other pro for me, like the wind buffeting, I actually felt it was better than the KTM 890 Adventure and the Husky Norden 901. So just want to point that out. I thought it was less noisy than those bikes. The downsides, certainly there are some. So questions about reliability, we don't know. And you're taking much more of a chance with this than you would be with a known established brand, especially a Japanese brand like Yamaha or Honda or something like that. A dealer network is incredibly limited worldwide. That's a fact. There's no way around that. The engine was very rattly and very unrefined and rough sounding, and some test riders at the event I was at thought the engine was going to fail at any minute, but I think that's just how that engine sounds. The fueling is a little bit rough at low speeds. I spent some more time with it. It does have a little bit of surging at low speeds, so not a huge deal breaker, and I think some other reviewers noticed that more than I did, but I did feel that a little bit. The brakes don't feel very good. They're an off-brand brake. I think Tasico, I don't know who makes those brakes, or maybe that's their own company, but they felt pretty soft and didn't give me much confidence flying into those corners on the road trail braking. The quick shifter was inconsistent. I had issues with the quick shifter working, although that could have just been my press bike. Sometimes those press bikes get pretty beat up. The overall refinement on the bike is just lacking. The fit and finish is just not great, and then the feel of the materials is not great. The sound is kind of rough. Like it just feels a bit unfinished and a bit raw. Maybe that's okay, but something I wanted to point out. And of course, we've already talked about this, but the weight that Kove is claiming doesn't seem to be a reality, and that's really too bad. Maintenance, just quickly, maintenance on this bike. Oil change, they're quoting every 5,000 miles or around 9,000 kilometers. Valve adjustments or inspections every 12,000 miles or about 18,000 kilometers. All right, so what are my final thoughts on the Kove 800X Pro? Keeping in mind this was just really more of a first ride and not any sort of long-term review. I think that with bikes like this, they have really good performance, really good potential. They're fun to ride. People like me get excited about them, but we just need more time. Nobody knows yet how this is going to work out. For Kove as a brand, for the reliability of their bikes, are they going to get more dealers? Is the part support going to be there? How is it going to be for people in a lot of countries around the world, depending on where you live? So this is only going to appeal to a really small audience who is willing to sacrifice that reliability, that dealer support, that known support you get from a more established brand. You're willing to sacrifice that in exchange for lighter weight and higher performance and something that definitely has a different feel than the mainstream competition. So you've got to be willing to make that sacrifice. I think for people who are traveling throughout the world in remote areas, you're not going to want to get some kind of bike like this. You don't want to take any chance about things breaking down or not being able to get parts. So stick with your Yamaha, stick with your Honda, whatever it might be. That makes sense. I totally understand that. But for people like me in the USA, you know, where I'm not necessarily traveling around the world on the bike and I can maybe sacrifice a little bit of that reliability, it might appeal more to somebody like me. All right, well, more content on the Kove bikes, the 450s and the 800s coming in the future, as well as other new bike reviews, so stay tuned for that. Please support Big Rock Moto. You can bookmark my link tree for when you're shopping. Other than that, ride safe, and I'll see you out there.